This is the second session on our agenda, which is a facilitated conversation, where we are going to talk about and reflect on new findings from the implementation of a statewide nurse mentoring program and its contribution to maternal and neonatal death in Bihar. And also talk about data that PHFI has independently been collecting as an independent evaluative survey to look at decline in neonatal mortality. And the format of this session will be a little different than the morning one. We're going to keep it as a facilitated dialogue and conversation with the panelists for a couple of rounds, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So with that, I'm actually going to ask all my panelists to please come and sit in the front, if you don't mind. I'll start with Dr. Tanmay Mahapatra, who's an MBBS and PhD in epidemiology. He's a public health expert and physician with 18 years of experience in epidemiological implementation, translational research, working currently as a technical lead for the concurrent measurement and learning team for CARE India and Bihar. So Tanmay, please. I'd also like to invite Dr. Rakhi Dandona, who has her professional position is with the Public Health Foundation of India, New Delhi, and also with the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation, University of Washington, Seattle. She has over 20 years of experience in large-scale epidemiological surveys across HIV/AIDS, maternal and child health, injuries, and health systems.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Deeparshi Bhattacharya from the Gates Foundation. I lead the health systems work in Bihar. And my privilege to invite Sridhar, who is our technical guru in Bihar. And Sridhar, for your nostalgia's sake, I must read out your CV as well to remind you that you are a pediatrician. And also you were a fellow, you were a Hubert Humphrey fellow in the beginning of the century. So also my privilege to invite Dr. Abha Mehendirata, who is the director at IHI, which is the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and is working very closely with CARE in running district collaborative efforts across district hospitals in Bihar. She is also a senior advisor for the Global Health and Development Group at the Imperial College, and has also consulted with the World Bank.
Okay, and last but not the least, Dr. Kirti Iyengar. She's a National Program Officer at UNFPA in reproductive health, where she's primarily involved with technical support for reproductive health programs, focusing on issues of access, quality, and reproductive rights. Kirti is a medical doctor with a MD in gynecology and a PhD in international health from the Karolinska Institute. And she has also worked with with ARTH, and I think many of you probably know her from her time there. And she also has an adjunct position with the Duke University. So with that, we're going to actually start with a presentation from Bihar. Tanmay is going to be presenting, describing the context of the nurse mentoring program, as well as findings from data, both CML's own data, as well as an independent evaluation that was conducted by Johns Hopkins University, Krishna Rao and Nicole Warren. We've kind of taken both data presentations and having Tanmay to present it for about 10 minutes, Tanmay, and then we'll move on.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, the organizers, for giving up the scope and for all of you to listen to the Bihar story. Now we are talking about Amanat, a journey, a nurse mentoring and training to ensure that we try to reach in a position where the infant and maternal mortality related indicators are in a better scenario from where it started. And that's how this program evolved as an on-site, bedside, practice-based mentoring and training program by CARE India, supported by the technological support with simulation training and everything others from the UCSF Pronto team. That eventually covered more than 3,300 nurses together. Here we have the figures for the BIMOG facilities, but when we put down the CIMOG facilities together, it is more than 3,300. and it's about 400 odd facilities of BMONG and 23 CMONG facilities with one medical college included. And the nurse mentors were the qualified nurses from other states, and they had to be first trained to mentor others. The impact was evaluated through a process called direct observation of delivery coupled with some facility assessments, so that we can understand two things together. And in this particular presentation, I will actually talk about two different interventions together, one being the quality of care improvement through this mentoring, as well as the system strengthening approach. And the observation came from two different organizations, one being the Concurrent Measurement and Learning Team of Care, as well as the external evaluation by the Johns Hopkins and OPM Consortium. So as we can see that the impact on the assessment of the vitals prior to delivery improved over time, and this is a kind of a presentation where we are putting both BMONG and CMONG facilities together, and the lower blue boxes are talking about what was the scenario at baseline, and when we are at the top with that maroon round, that is actually talking about the inline parameters. Now we can see that the assessment of vitals prior to delivery improved. All these results are statistically significant at alpha is equal to 0.05. And we can also see that the impact on hand washing and gloving, as well as those for the active management of the third stage of labor, both improved significantly over time, both in BMONG and CMONG. The impact on the newborn care, we can also see that there are significant improvement in several indicators. But summarily, for all those three slides, we started at a very poor baseline for many of the things. So where we reached, it's good that we reached somewhere, but miles to go for majority of them. Now, another impact assessment by JHU OPM Consortium came up with a methodology of the quasi-experimental post-test with matched comparison group, having facilities matched to identify different kind of movements for different indicators. The facilities were thus purposely selected, and based on the quotient exact matching procedure, the findings were showing that overall, like the labor management, like the blood loss management, like the postnatal vital monitoring, as well as the advice for the obstetric management, as well as those for the newborns, things progressed, and there is sufficient reasons to believe that it is working. Now, that's kind of the answer to the what question. Now comes the thing to so what. Now, to reach there, we can find that based on our data collected during last almost 2.5 years, there were several complications which were recorded, and this is data directly coming from the facilities and with substantial number, as you can see. Now, there are complications, management of which can actually ensure that you are going to have a better scenario in terms of betterment of the indicators, in terms of mortality and morbidity. How the complication managements are being impacted by this mentoring. So, a group of trained nursing professionals observed overall 1,390 complicated pregnancies, of which 487 being the postpartum hemorrhage. And after that, we came up with a complication management index, a composite index developed based on scoring of each of the evidence-based practices if done properly, given a proper score with equal weightage. And then we modeled it with a Poisson's regression methodology to come up with a result which is showing that overall, when we club any complication, that means all complication management together for respective complications, we are showing a significant positive change of lower magnitude. But when we are going for the individual ones, we are seeing a significantly high, as well as statistically significant, as well as a meaningful positive deviance in terms of management of PPH. For other things like asphyxia and all others, we are seeing a positive deviance, but not so much for the eclampsia. There are different potential explanations for these, managing which, or the understanding the guideline for management of which is easily understandable. So there comes the question that we were discussing in the morning regarding time. The next point is regarding a standalone mentoring intervention as well as the system strengthening approach. Together, does it make more sense? That was a kind of a decomposition analysis that was made based on a preparedness index developed for all the facilities where mentoring happened. And then there was the delivery care index, which was developed as the same way as it was developed before for the delivery assessments. And we found that when we are actually comparing the pre and post mean values, there is a significant change. And then when we did a difference analysis to understand that what is the independent effect of system strengthening, what is the independent effect of mentoring, and how it looks when we are mentoring in a prepared facility, it is clearly showing that mentoring in a facility which has been prepared through proper systematic approach to strengthen the system is giving us a much better response. This is a beta is the parameter estimate, so anything positive means there is a deviance. So we can see there is an incremental benefit when different programs working together. Now there comes a question that we all are trying to answer, and I today also asked the same question: how to understand till when, or if it is an ongoing process, so it has to be sustainable for the government, and if it is going to be ongoing, how long, to whom? To understand that, we did another analysis in the last part where we can see that 1 unit increase in a particular index is giving us an estimate, but when we are actually going to see a mean substantive changes, we are seeing more positive impact. So a particular change happening over time giving us a better impact when coupled together for all the interventions. Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you, Tanmay. Even just that was very provocative. But then we have more data, and Rakhi will be presenting from the NMR study, as we call it, in Bihar. This is an independent survey that they've been doing over the last 5 years. And we've asked her specifically to, of course, talk to us about the data and findings, but also to build out what are the future downward trends for NMR in Bihar, and what aspects of quality strengthening are really critical to pay attention to in the medium and long term, given the achievement we see now, and what does this data suggest about rethinking continuum of care.
Thank you, Priya. Good afternoon, everyone. Session after post-lunch is not easy. Since the morning, we've been talking only about what happens at the facility. I will now take you out to the population level. Let's see what happens when you look at all these numbers, all these interventions, everything that the nurses have been doing at the population level. What happens to the women and the children for whom these interventions we are talking about since the morning. These data come from 2 evaluation surveys, one in 2011, which was the baseline, and one in 2016. And these are designed as representative surveys, representative of the births that took place in the last 12 months, January to December of a given year. And the sample sizes are large, 13,000 in the first round and 20,000 in the next. What did we find? 2011 and 2016, the neonatal mortality rate in Bihar has actually dropped by 23%, just at the borderline of statistical significance, but a good result. During this time, we also see that statistically significant increase in the number of public sector deliveries, 19% increase over 5 years, and the drop in home deliveries by 21%. We've heard about the nurse mentoring program. In the evaluation survey from the women, we captured these interventions which were very specific to nurse mentoring. delayed bathing, immediate breastfeeding, skin-to-skin care, and whether the baby was weighed after the baby was born. As you can see, between the 2 years, there is increase in all these interventions, and the increase is significant, anywhere between 45 to 50%. If you look at only public sector, which is where the nurse mentoring actually happens, the increase is even higher. This is how it looked by place of delivery in 2016, the recent survey. Public sector doing better across as compared with private sector. However, when you look at other interventions which are also part of maternal care, for example, ANC, which is not part of nurse mentoring, you don't see much change. The ANC has been stagnant, just a 10% increase in any ANC, but if you look at 3+ and 4+ ANC visits, it hasn't really changed. Now one wonders, if you go by the new WHO proposal of 8 ANCs, where we would actually be. The quality of ANC service, if quality as defined by what the woman gets when she goes for ANC, has actually dropped over time. The other example is postnatal care within 1 week. Only 36% of the babies actually received postnatal care within 1 week of birth. And if you look at the second one, which is within the very low birth weight babies, which is part of the nurse mentoring program, it was better. So again, wherever we focused within Bihar in nurse mentoring, we have actually seen a change, a good change. But where we did not focus, we really haven't seen much change. If neonatal mortality is the quality outcome indicator defined at the population level, this is what we find when we look at the risk factors for neonatal mortality in 2016. The Amanat blocks, these are the blocks where the nurse mentoring has been done in the best possible way as at this point in time. Amanat blocks had a protective effect. So the neonatal mortality was lower in these Amanat blocks. But I want to point out to these risk factors here. This is part of a multiple logistic regression where there are n number of variables, but what I put here is what's important within the context of what we are discussing today. Delayed bathing, skin-to-skin care, and immediate breastfeeding, though the coverage has gone up, that's what the focus of nurse mentoring has been, they still continue to account for neonatal mortality. So we haven't really gone up there yet. What's interesting is the other factors that you see: breech presentation of the baby, cord around the baby's neck, no postnatal care within 1 week of birth, and illness during neonatal period. These are way more important than the delayed bathing, skin-to-skin, and immediate breastfeeding at this point in time, because some work has been done on these, not enough yet, but there are these other risk factors that we have to take into account. So this basically means that we have to possibly look beyond nurses. We talked about the missing doctors in the morning. This is where you need the doctors for. When you look at the verbal autopsies, when you read the the open verbatims in the verbal autopsies of the babies who've died, you realize that the mothers got a variety. They gave us history of appropriate care as defined by the mother. They gave history of push and pull by the nurse provider, poor skills of the nurses and the doctors at many times. They just being referred because the health facility where they had gone was unable to actually provide that service, or they actually simply got refusal and they said, just go away. But what does it all mean for a given baby, for a mother? Sorry, the survey does not allow us to answer those kind of questions. When you look at illness during the neonatal period, now this is an important factor when you look at babies who die after their discharge. We all know that not every baby is dying on the day of delivery or at the time of delivery. But what happens, all what we're discussing today so far has been at the time of delivery and before discharge. But there are babies who are dying after that. Is our system prepared for that? Clearly not, because illness during neonatal periods stood out as an important risk factor for babies who died after 2 days of being born. We got history of symptoms, we couldn't get much of referral pattern, and we couldn't get much information on access and quality of the treatment. So again, we know the issues, but sorry, we really do not know the answers as to why this baby actually ended up dying. What does this mean overall? It means that It means everything that I've said so far, but it also means that when we do surveys, population surveys, whether it's this survey or NFHS or any DHS that you talk about, all these risk factors come from what the mothers tell us. These do not come from medical records. So even if you were to ask me how many of these mothers actually had hypertension during pregnancy, sorry, because most of the answers that we get is don't know. Now that don't know is because they didn't have blood pressure measured. They don't know because it was measured but nobody bothered to tell them whether it was normal or not normal. So there's a variety there. So let's keep in mind that whatever you hear of surveys or see in surveys is all what the mothers are telling us, which may or may not be correct at any given time. So what do we do about this? We look at the data a bit differently. We said let's focus on the users instead of only interventions. Instead of looking at how many babies got skin-to-skin care, let's look at what each baby actually got. We'll start from the mother. Focus on just one part of it. So this slide is divided by quartile, the wealth quartile. Let's focus on quartile 1. This is all women, 100%, all women who showed up for at least one ANC visit. One ANC visit. So that's 100%, everybody who showed up, right? Of them, only 65% actually showed up for the second visit. Of those, only 25% showed up for the third visit. Of them, only 11% had a facility delivery. So when we look at these numbers, irrespective of the continuum, they tell you a different story. But when you look at a continuum, the story can be actually different. This is same when you look at babies. If you look at all the babies who were born in a facility, which is this green here, everybody, only 32% of them got skin-to-skin care, of whom only 24% actually got delayed bathing, breastfeeding, then delayed bathing, and then PNC within 1 week. Now, it's very simple to put it like this. There are many permutation combinations to this because some babies may not need it, some babies may need it, but again, evaluation surveys do not allow you to understand that. But the point here is we have to start looking at what every mother and every baby gets rather than just looking at what are the numbers of interventions that are happening, which is not very different from what every newborn health tells, that you have to focus on every mother and every child. Which is again bringing us back to focus on continuum of care. Some of you have touched upon this in the morning, and this slide is, this figure is very well known. I don't have to get into this, but the point again is unless we follow a pregnant woman across her pregnancy down to delivery and then the baby down to postnatal care, I'm just dealing with the neonatal health period here, we may not find the answers that we are looking for. How do we do it? Data is the cornerstone of quality improvement. We've heard about data in the morning, the importance of evidence, and here I want to focus on one piece of evidence, one piece of data, which is medical records. We continue in the developing country setting, we continue to do these community surveys because we do not have data coming from medical records. I think it's high time that we start thinking of actually working on medical records, getting the data there, and do the community surveys for things that we really need to move on to get to the next step. We've been dealing with the same step over many, many years, and maybe it's time to move on. This is when we will actually be able to answer the questions that we need at the facility level. What is the neonatal mortality rate for a given facility? Have the changes that we've talked about, whether it's nurse mentoring, X, Y, Z, how the changes have been sustained over time? Why don't we get all of that in medical records? So then we understand what's actually happening rather than we continue to think what's happening or doing surveys, whether at the facility or community level, trying to just understand what's actually happening and not really getting to the next step. This is another aspect this convening is talking about, quality of services, timely, responsive, and respectful. I will leave you with these three verbatims because we did not really assess the quality as we are, or the respect, but the verbatims here tell you enough about how the women are actually dealt with, and these are the women whose babies had died. Please focus on the red ones. I remained there for 5 years and no doctor came to check. Nurse told me that when she was crying aloud, nurse told me that I was acting and purposely crying, there was nothing serious. When the condition deteriorated, she was asked to go somewhere else. The second case, the baby, the doctor was there, the nurse was there, pain increased, baby started to come out. The legs came out first. The doctor then informed, oh, the legs are out first, and we can't deliver you, please go somewhere else. The third one is no one checked her up, she was in labor pain, and the pain kept increasing. According to them, they just kept, the doctors and the nurses kept roaming here and there. The family then decided to go to the private hospital, and she walked there. So, this kind of tells us about, what quality are we talking about. The only way we can address this is if we routinely capture patient experience and satisfaction as we deliver these services. I want to end with some talking points. Now, the presentation that you hear today, what I've done is based on, the human resources that are available at this point in time. It doesn't deal with the gaps. We know enough about that. But this is when you have someone, what does that someone deliver? And in terms of patient, it's not talking about access to services. This is talking about women who access the services and what happens to them. Providing quality of care and documenting what you do with each patient is not add-on. I think this is the thinking that we need to change. It is part of the job description. You, whether you're a medical doctor, a nurse, A&M, you need to write. Maybe we need to start thinking about what we make them write. We make them write reports. If you have a good medical record, if it's all digitized well, you don't need them to write reports. The reports are generated. You need them to fill the case sheets or the medical records. And it's not an add-on. And that mindset needs to change. Explicit monitoring of quality. When we say we are monitoring performance of the human resources, can we then start thinking about monitoring quality and not performance? Quality Watch done by NHS is a very good example. It is also done as a third party. Dominic referred to it in his framework this morning. Very interesting. I think there is some need for out-of-box thinking, because currently what you see is the provider and the user are out of the box. That's what I see. Many years ago, in 2000, I went for a public health congress in Calcutta, the only one that I attended during the course of my work. 2,000 people, grassroots health workers up to the doctors. Fantastic activism, nothing like this. It was in a sports stadium. And I was very surprised to see, I thought they would be talking about what's happening with them, but they were very passionate about talking with how they can actually do things better for the patients. Maybe it's time to bring more of them within this circle and see, it's not 10 in-depth interviews, 20 in-depth interviews probably do not tell us enough. We need to get them on board, engage with them. I will leave you with this last thing. We've been talking about maternal child health, that's the theme. We've been talking about maternal child health in India for decades now, and we are yet talking about quality. We are also a country where the health system now has to deal with chronic conditions. Are we simply going to talk about quality within the maternal health care gamut? If this lady comes in for something else, are those quality standards not important? Will we then make them unlearn and say that this quality is actually important, irrespective of who shows up and for what condition? Something for us to think about. Thank you.